This painting I just started, as I said, about last session. Put about an hour or so into it. Somewhat of a spontaneous painting, but it sort of was reminiscent of places that I've been. Actually, just wonderful places, beautiful sunsets. This one, particular one, was in the kind of the Riviera district of Mexico, in a little bay called Yalapa Bay, and there's a little village over here. Anyway, the idea that I had with this one was to just kind of capture the essence of a lot of the colors, and I love sunsets. Okay, I know it's a little bit overdone, but I found this orange color that I'm gonna probably overuse a little bit now. I just dabbed a bit more on there. This orange color, I'm gonna actually get it from my pigment from my set here. Share it with you. I just call it crazy orange. It's just such a wonderful orange. What the heck is this called? Here it is. Okay. Pumpkin Citrulli Calabaza. It's found it at the art store by Delta. Cheap. Actually very inexpensive paint, but the orange is just dazzling. Now what I'm going to do to finish this painting is actually just a few more touches of the orange. This whole painting took about an hour approximately to create, maybe a little less. But what I want to do is kind of pick up on some of the really bright, vivid oranges up here, and I want to add them down here as a little bit more reflections of that vivid orange to kind of get the painting some dynamic interaction with the upper part. And I always do a little bit of dynamic symmetry with all my designs. I'm gonna make that orange kind of come in from this little area here, which you'll notice is kind of forming a bit of a spiral actually. Yeah, I might have gone a little too far there, but I'm going to add a few touches of that orange as though they were reflecting off that last moment of sun. Put these up on the waves. I think I overdid it a little bit there. I'll fix that. I'm going to put those same little highlights here. And actually, I'm kind of feeling like a little bit of that orange is actually shining through there. I'm kind of liking that. And because it's there, it must also be a little bit over here, at least a little bit. That's the wave it gives it a little bit of depth, and I am really super close to calling this one finito, done. A little more orange there. Okay, calling it done, calling it finished. That is one of the artist's hardest things to do, by the way, is to know when to call it done. But we have completed that painting. Talk to you a little bit about my other endeavors here. Won't keep you, I want to get right back into live painting. One of my other endeavors here is, and actually let me back up a little bit. So the reason I'm on Twitch and on Facebook Live and all this stuff is to help enhance the experience that I have when I'm painting. It's a bit selfish. I have found that and this goes into my definition of what visual arts are all about, but I found that by visually interpreting my surroundings, my memories, the images, or whatever it is I'm seeing, processing it in through my brain, and then processing it back out through some visual media, gives me a sense of great, I just have to say that I feel like I'm in the moment when I'm doing that, in the moment. And also, I think it helps me interpret the world. I mean, the world to me is beautiful, so I just try to focus on that and channel that through my brain. And hopefully I'm creating some neural pathways that will persist. More on that later. Take a quick look at that. Actually, there's one tiny thing I want to fix. Then I promise I'm going to walk away from the painting. As I said, that's always the bane of an artist, is know when to walk away. I'm going to just tone down slightly that orange that I added as highlight, just slightly, because I like it, but I don't want it to be quite that crazy, even though I call it crazy orange. Done. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Nice painting there. We'll put that away. By the way, sometimes I offer paintings as kind of prizes, kind of a way to engage on some of my shows. If you ever want one of my paintings, just tune in. You know, you'll know when it happens. I'll offer it to you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just work on another painting that I've already started. Sometimes we start brand new paintings. Today I'm going to work on some that I've already started. And this one here has got me interested in it. Gotta tell you here. Alright. Got me interested. And I'm the artist. So I gotta remember which blues that I use in there, because I'm gonna do a little kind of reset on this one. I think it was ultramarine blue. So I'm gonna grab some ultramarine blue. Get that going in my palette. You know, an interesting thing, of course, y'all know what a palette is, where you mix your paints and everything. But the palette is actually very important in art, and especially, of course, in painting, in that it is where all of the, the colors are coming from. So you have to be careful, one, not to get too many colors going on at any one time, and then remember what those colors are and what they represent. And in this case, what I want to do is just refer to something I've talked about a couple times in my show here, and I just get it from my lower shelf there, and that is, it might be useful for you all to create kind of swatches, I call them. I'll let you zoom in on, I'll zoom the camera in on that a little bit. So here's one, for example, that I'm going to use now right now. It's ultramarine blue and white. Here's one that's burnt umber, yellow, ochre, and white. Kind of see the gradations. It's a reference, little reference library you can create as you paint. It's easy to do, because as you paint, you just, put the colors you're mixing in a little sketchbook like this. Call it swatches. Now what I'm going to do here, though, in this painting, is I'm going to blast, I put that sphere in there for some reason. I don't know why. And not that it's a bad sphere or anything, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically obliterate that sphere by going back to some pure ultramarine blue. Just total obliteration. I'm just going to lay some thick, heavy, pure ultramarine blue on here. And don't worry about the edges, because I'll fix those later. What I wanted to do, though, is, but this one is actually kind of gradated. So what I want to do here is catch that gradation, might as well while I'm doing it. Let me grab that other palette where I have some white going on already. As you can see, it's kind of a gradated white. It's always funny when people look at this and they go, "Oh, that doesn't quite work yet." Well, you got to mix the paints, man, or live stuff. And I'm going to just do something really crazy here. I'm just going to sort of do some more mass obliteration here. And I'm in this sort of medium part of my palette right in here. I'm just going to carry that across. Don't worry, all you fans of Doric columns and stuff. We will recreate you. But the thing is, what you got to do is you got to create this all so that it makes sense spatially. And so on the back end of it, you've got this dark sky. I think it is a sky. And we need to have a nice consistent band across the top. You might be thinking to yourself, why is he ruining that painting? Pretty good question, maybe, because I might be, but just being doing what I do here. I'm going to recreate that whole section here. I'll get a little more of that ultramarine blue going on here. I think it's right here. Is that it? Yep, that's it. Ultramarine, phthalo blue, cobalt blue. You gotta use different blues for different situations. What I'm doing here, though, is I'm showing you that I'm just layering in the back. In this case, it's kind of like the sky or space or something. By the way, if you have any comments or anything like that, put them in the chat panel. I'll keep monitoring that from time to time. But I'm kind of liking how that just, it's freaking deep, deep, pure ultramarine blue here, pretty much. And then as I go down, I'm going to start lightening that up a bit. So this part of it will be a little lighter, and you'll see what I'm doing. I'm going to do is just blend the horizontals here. I'm going to use one of my other brushes here in just a second. Right over there. It's kind of light down in here, yeah. I'm going to use one of my other brushes right now to show you a technique called feathering. Now I've just created a bunch of pretty crazy wild strokes of the brush here, but I'm going to now called feather it. I'm going to use a big feather brush called the fan brush. And for all you art fans out there, you might want to pick one of these up. It's called the fan brush. Good for fans. I'm going to give it a little bit of water. You don't want to get too carried away with the fan brush with water. And I'm going to add a little bit of the pigment kind of in the mid-range of this. I'm going to go across horizontally, feather it. Sweet. Look at that. Love it. That kind of blends those nice colors. I'm going to go right to where that structure kind of ends there. I'm going to add just a little bit of crazy stuff here because I just thought of it. Just thought of this. Maybe because who knows where we are. It could be outer space or whatever. Maybe, just maybe, the deep space has a little bit of magenta in it. So I just added a little bit of magenta to my palette. Now watch what I'm going to do. Put that magenta more on the upper side of my palette here. See that fan brush? And I'm going to stroke across, putting a little magenta into the palette near the top of the brush strokes. I'm liking it. So we're going to stop there for a minute. And we're going to let this painting dry because I'm going to start doing some over painting on it, and it takes 20 minutes or so. Be back in a moment.